So just to kind of, I suppose, a brief what this session is about. So we're going to hear about online learning with Scholar and e-Sgoil. So I will just then hand over to Laura from Scholar. You just give me a moment. So we've got Laura Green and Stephen Graham who have kindly come along to talk to us. So on to Laura and Scholar.
Thanks very much. So my name is Laura Green. I am a Scholar Support Officer. I've been working for Scholar for the past 7 years or so, but I am also an English teacher. I'm a registered English teacher, but now mainly working out with the classroom and working for Scholar. So Sarah is kindly going to move my slides along for me. So please could you move to the next slide, Sarah? Okay, so I'm going to spend just around 20 minutes telling you a bit about Scholar, and giving you some helpful links. It's going to help you find out more about Scholar after this event, and then I'll be able to take some questions after my presentation. So we're going to go over what Scholar actually is, how your child can access Scholar, the key features of the courses, the reports that your child can access about their progress. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about preview accounts. And just before we watch that video, you'll see that I've put a link to an email address on that slide, and I'm going to put it into the chat as well, because that email address is going to be really useful for you if you have any questions about Scholar itself, about how your child can access it after this event. Just get in touch with us and we'll be able to help you out. So Sarah, could you play the video, please? It only lasts about a minute. Providing online learning since 1999, Scholar's high-quality, trusted resources have been used by over 1.1 million learners. Teachers value the use of Scholar in whole class, group, and individual learning and teaching. Accessible to learners where and when they need it, Scholar works on any device, ensuring a truly personalised approach to learning. Our courses are written by experienced teachers and lecturers, and learners know that content aligns with the Scottish curriculum. Scholar, providing instant, in-depth insights, unlocking progress, and helping learners achieve their potential. Thank you, Sarah. Could you move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so if you're completely new to Scholar, because perhaps you've got a child that's just gone into 4th year, maybe got a child that's maybe even in 3rd year and they haven't sat any national qualifications yet, then you might be completely new to it. But Scholar's been around since 1999, as it said in the little video, and we started off with just a ring binder full of resources and photocopiable worksheets for teachers that taught STEM subjects, that taught science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. But we've grown since then. And so now we have over 40 full courses. So something you should know about Scholar is that Scholar is comprehensive. So if your child is sitting National 5 chemistry, or if they're sitting National 5 applications of maths or advanced higher maths, then if there's a skill or concept that's been taught in their course by their teacher, that should also be replicated in Scholar. They should find it in their Scholar course. Something else you should know about Scholar is that we know that there are various online resources out there that are reproductions of textbooks, and that there may be PDF versions, online PDF versions of textbooks that your child can access in class. But Scholar's not like that. Scholar is interactive. So all of our courses have activities and assessments that your child can do, whether they want to work through it themselves in a self-directed manner, or whether their teacher directs them to use a particular activity or assessment. Your child can also see how they're getting on, because sometimes they might need a little boost in confidence, or they might not know what they need to work on to be able to progress. So they can access their own individual instant reports. We know that it's important for young people that they can use technology with any device, because we all, I'm sure, I mean, I'm a parent of a teenager, and I know that my child's mobile phone sometimes feels like an extension of his body because it's always attached to him. So I know that my child would be, as well as accessing um, his digital learning resources on a PC, he might also want to do it on a tablet, for example, or on his mobile phone. So all of our activities and all of our content works in the same way in a mobile phone as it would work on a PC or an iPad or a Mac or whatever else your child might have access to. One of the things that we know from speaking to teachers is that the use of Scholar is very flexible. So when we look at how Scholar is being used across the country, we know that Scholar is being used both within class time and out with class time. So teachers are using it in their whole class and group teaching, and they're also setting it for homework and setting it for revision. And another important element of Scholar you might have noticed from the course tables that are in front of you is that at the moment we only support National 5s, Hires and Advanced Hires. So if you have a child that is in S4 and they're not doing any National 5s at all, they will not automatically have access to Scholar, but they can ask their school and their school can grant them access manually. Sarah, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this webinar is being recorded, but if you do want to find out a little bit more about Scholar, we do have a Knowledge Hub on our public website. And part of that Knowledge Hub is an article called Information for Parents and Carers. I've put a QR code on the screen, so if you have a mobile phone next to you, you can scan that QR code with the camera app in your phone, and it will take you directly to that web page. So there is a bit of information there about just reminding you what Scholar is and how your child can access it. So you don't need to listen to me blathering, you can access that web page there. If you just go to one more slide and then I'll go into the live demo. Sarah, if you just move on to the next one, please. So I'll come back to this again at the end. Because we know, and I know as a parent myself, and we know from speaking to parents that a lot of the time you get access to your young person's learning activities because you'll say, well, this is my experience anyway, I'll say, right, show me what you've got to do in maths. You know, is it on Teams? Is it on Google Classroom? You know, show me what you're doing, and I'll engage with my child that way. But with Scholar, you can of course do that if that suits you. You can see your child and you can see your child's access to all of their subjects on Scholar. But if you'd like to have a play around with it yourself, we do have a limited version of an account called the Scholar Preview account. So again, there's another QR code on there for you if you would wish to get in touch with us to request a Scholar Preview account. And I'll put the link in the chat as well. And that'll just give you a little opportunity to play around with it. But I'm going to start sharing my screen now to let you have a look at the resources and demonstrate how your child can access them. Okay, so I should be sharing my screen now. Okay, right, so I've talked about access and I talked about how if your child is doing a National 5, then what they should be able to access our courses automatically. I just want to check if Stephen or Sarah, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the Scholar public website there? Just to make sure that that's what I'm sharing. Thanks, Stephen. Okay, thank you. So there are two ways that your young person can get in to access Scholar. The first way is through Glow. So we know that from speaking to teachers and learners across the country, that depending where you live, your child might log into Glow regularly, or they might only log into it every now and again, or they might not be aware of their username and password. But for some of our young people, this is the best and easiest way for them to get into Scholar, because what will happen is their Glow account is automatically associated with their Scholar account. They'll go on to their Launchpad, they'll add the Scholar tile, they'll click on or select that Scholar tile, and that'll automatically take them to their personalised account. So they don't need to be worrying about yet another username or password. They don't need to worry about that at all. Just using that Scholar tile will take them directly to their account. If they don't use Glow regularly, what we will do is they will just log into the website the same way as you would log into any website. So I'm just going to demonstrate by hitting that login button. And you can see here that I've got the option to log in with Glow. If your young person wants to do it that way, they absolutely can. Or they can just put in their username and password. And because I am didn't want to have to remember yet another username and password myself, I just got Google Chrome to remember that, to remind me of that, to save that for me. So I'm going to use those credentials now. Okay, so this is what young people see when they log into their timetabled courses. Now this is a demonstration account because most learners would probably sit a maximum of 5 hires in 1 year, but my demonstration learner, Aisha, is completing 6. So when learners log in, they will see their own personalised timetable because they can see their own course tiles. But that doesn't mean that they can only access those courses. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that learners can access related courses. And if they hit that toggle, that display other courses toggle, they can access all of the other courses as well. So every Scholar user, and that's teachers as well as learners, can access all of our content should they wish to. So for some learners, this can be quite useful, especially when learners notice a bit of a jump in the level of difficulty from National 5 to higher. So they might, for example, be looking at some higher maths, come across a concept that maybe they were a little bit sugary or shaky with when they were in 4th year, and decide that they actually want to go back and look at that skill or concept in National 5 maths and make sure they're sure-footed and they're more confident about it, so that they can go in and speak to their teacher, asking for extra help or making sure that they have covered all bases and they've tried their best to make sure they understand the concept before maybe speaking to their teacher again. Or maybe they wouldn't need to. Maybe that would be enough to remind them of the skills involved and they could move on from there. The other thing that I should point out to you is because at Scholar we know that some learners have difficulty accessing content on screen. But inbuilt into every Scholar account is the ability to change what your Scholar looks like. So if I just go into Aisha's profile, I can choose to change the website theme. Some people like to access all of their content in dark mode, so they might want to do that. You might want to change the font. So for example, if your young person has difficulty in reading text on screen, they might want to change it so that it suits them. But for the purposes of the rest of the demonstration, I'm just going to move back to default. So everything can be personalised to your young person and to how they want it. So let's have a look at what the actual resources look like. We'll start by having a little look at higher human biology. So all of our courses are aligned with the SQA course structures. So when a young person logs into Scholar and looks at their courses, all of this terminology will be familiar to them and they will know that what they're looking at is relevant to what they are learning in the classroom. So let's have a look at an example of what our text looks like. So a learner could work through the topics from beginning to end, but that usually doesn't happen. Usually what would happen is that learners would be a little bit more reflective, a bit more mindful, or their teachers might be a little bit more directive, and they would look at the certain parts of the course that they were needing to work on. So let's have a little look at structure and application of DNA. So all of our topics are structured in more or less the same way. We've got some learning objectives. We've got some text that the learner should read over. We might have some illustrations. And then we might have some activities. So the learners can complete these activities as many times as they like. I'm just putting in nonsense words, and obviously that's going to be wrong. but the learner can try these as many times as they like to get these right. Let's have a look at DNA replication. Particularly in our science courses, we have got quite a few animations because a lot of the scientific content needs to be accompanied by a visual explanation, and the same with maths, and the same with actually geography, one of our newer courses. So I'd like to have a little look at what our animations look like. So again, young people can play these, replay these, restart these as many times as they need to be able to understand the concept that's being taught. Here's another example of one of our activities. This time we've got a drag and drop. So again, I've just picked random ones just for the purposes of demonstration, but they get instant feedback and they can reload it. Now, we know that we're trying to teach our young people to be resilient, to keep trying, to have that growth mindset, to think, well, I'm not very good at this right now, but I can get better at it. So that is the reason why learners can try all of our activities and our assessments time and time again until they feel a lot more confident with that skill or concept that they've been learning. But we also know that it's easy for anybody, no matter what age you are, no matter what you're learning, to become quite frustrated. So if your young person is trying this quite a few times and they're not really getting anywhere, they're just stuck, they might want to reveal the answers. So they can reveal the answers. I'll give them the correct answers. They can reload it and they can try again. I'm going to show you one or two more examples of activities, and then I'm going to show you what the reports look like. Just going to scroll back to the top and go back to our courses. Let's have a look at higher accounting this time. Okay, so at this stage in the school year, your young people have, if they're in 4th, 5th or 6th year, will have completed their prelims already. They're probably thinking about revision. They're probably thinking about what they can do to make sure that they are getting the best that they can, the best possible grade that they can, the best possible outcome they can when it comes to their exam in May. So they might not want to or be willing to scroll through lots and lots of pages of text to try and find the most appropriate activity for them. So we've got a couple of ways we can get around that. We can use the activity filter. So I just hit that activity filter there. I've got the list of activities down the side, and maybe I only want to see assessments, and maybe I'm really needing to work on my business analysis. So I would complete this business analysis test. So again, I'm going to just put in any answer to get through this quickly. But you can see that our assessments give them a little nudge if they need to. So it will show them steps, it will give them hints to help them along. And they can submit their answers. Oh, that's not letting me because I've not put in any answers there, sorry. Put in answers here, there we go. That should be me now. Okay, so we're submitting all parts. Then I'm going on to the next. Next, we've got a multiple choice. And imagine this young person now, your young person is feeling a little bit daunted. Did you see I got 1 out of 9 for that last screen? That wasn't very good. I might be feeling, my confidence might be a bit dented. So I could guess, I could just put in true for all of these, or I could reveal. So I can reveal the answer there, but then that's not going to let me put in the correct answer. That's not going to let me cheat, because we want to be able to track learners' progress. They want to be able to see how they're getting on, so they can then track their progress by looking at the reports. Before I show you the reports though, I just want to show you one more example. So see if we went to higher psychology, for example. So let's go into higher psychology. And again, imagine that you're a young person that's about to complete a national qualification. You're at the stage in the academic year where you're needing to revise, you've learned all of the content that you're going to learn, your teacher's taught you all. So instead of looking at our activities this time, we could just use search this course. So I'm going to put in a word that's relevant to higher psychology, and that will show me all of the relevant sections that I can look at to help me revise. If your learner, if your young person is fed up looking at screens, or if they are easily distracted, for example, and you're thinking to yourself, well, this content all looks really relevant. I'm glad it's written by teachers. I'm glad that is it's aligned with SQA course specifications, so we know it's relevant to what they're learning. We do have an option to download the content. So your young person will have the option to download it. They can download the content of the course in PDF files that can stay on their desktop, and they can open it up, or if you really wanted to, you could print it out and you could read through it that way. And that might help them with accessibility as well if they prefer to read off of paper or coloured paper or use coloured overlays instead of reading off of screen. So that is an option for them. So before I take questions, I just want to show you quickly the reports. Now, my learner Aisha has been working really hard on higher English, and she wants to assess how she's getting on. So when Aisha accesses her reports, she'll not only be able to see how much of the course that she's looked at and her engagement with how much of the content she's looked at on average, how much she's looked at this week and how much she's looked at in her best week, 81 pages on Monday, December the 16th, maybe that was just before she completed her English prelim. She might want to also look at her test scores. Remember that assessment that we looked at earlier that I was showing you that they couldn't cheat on because it helps them and it helps their teachers track their progress. So Aisha can look at all of her scores. She can see that she got 100% in Scottish text exam techniques, but she got 0 in her critical essay. Perhaps she just skipped the questions in that and just had a little look at it. But what Aisha can do from this page is that she can view the details of the actual assessment that she sat. So if she wanted to, she could think, well, that I did really well actually in that drama test. I want to go back and see how I can build on those strengths. I want to see how I can get 90% next time, 95% next time. So she could go and view the details of the actual assessment that she sat, the answers that she gave when she completed that assessment. Or if she wanted to, she could go back and reattempt that assessment again to give herself another go at it, another bit of challenge to see how she was getting on. Okay, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Scholar. But as I was saying at the beginning, if you want to, you're more than welcome to request a preview account so you can play around with it yourself, or speak to your young person and see how they're getting on and find out if you want to sit with them while they look through it themselves. Okay, so I can see that we've got a question from in the chat. So I'll stop sharing now.
Hi, yes, it's Tina here from Connect. Laura, sorry everybody, I
That's
had
all right, Tina.
major internet problems, so resolved now. The question seems to be from Kadar. I hope I've said that right. I think it's about inclusion and accessibility. You did touch on that, and I think the other part of the question is about youth social workers being able to access scholar content. Does it need to be through Glow and through a school is what I'm thinking. So Kadar is saying yes to something that I've said there, but anyway, back to you, Laura.
Okay, so the accessibility options that we have in the profile are for learners who have difficulty reading off screen, but Scholar is also compatible with a software that a child might normally use, such as screen reader software. As for whether a social worker would be able to get a Scholar account, anyone is free to request one of those preview accounts, but only a child's teacher that is registered to teach them would have the ability to have a look at that child's progress. So I hope that answers your question, Kedar. If not, please let me know. Ask again in the chat.
That's all the questions that he says. Perfect.
Okay,
That's
great.
great. That's all the questions that are in the chat at the moment. If people do think of other questions as we go along, we can pick them up at another question session at the end of Stephen's presentation. So if that's okay with you, Laura, you've finished up just there for now. But thank you so much. And Stephen, it's over to you. So we're going to ask Stephen to share his screen, and he'll be talking about e-Sgoil. So, and Karen says, thank you very much, Laura. So that's great. So,
Great. Thank you very much to Laura there. I'll just check that you are seeing that all okay. Yeah, Laura's giving me a nod, so that's good. So it's great to be with you tonight. My name is Stephen Graham. I am the head of school at e-Sgoil, and I've been with e-Sgoil now for around, gosh, it's probably five or 6 years. And e-Sgoil is essentially an online provider of education, and it has evolved significantly in the short time that it's been around. It was initially conceived as a local solution to a local problem here in the Western Isles, where I'm speaking to you from tonight, where in some of our smaller secondary schools, resilience of staffing was a real issue, and breadth of curricular choice. There was a real disparity between what our largest secondary schools could provide by way of range of subjects in the senior phase, S4 to 6, compared to some of our smaller schools. So we've got a range. Our largest school is over 1,000 pupils. Our smallest secondary has less than 100 pupils. So looking to broaden the curricular choice, and to mean that we'd be able to add additional resilience to the system, we started providing online teaching, initially just as a means of plugging staffing gaps. So as you can imagine, if you're in the Isle of Barra and you've got one maths teacher, if that maths teacher leaves the island, it takes some time to recruit a new teacher, and it leaves the young people without a specialist teacher for quite some time. So that's what e-Sgoil essentially started doing, plugging gaps by providing specialist teachers all over Scotland. Once that request came from the Scottish Government and funding, it essentially saw us being an online provider of supply teaching. And we've had requests from all over Scotland in lots of different subjects, and I'll say a wee bit more about that later on. I would summarise everything that we do under the heading of removing barriers, but essentially the E in e-Sgoil is all about equity. We're looking to overcome some of the obstacles and the barriers that young people face. And the barrier that was the initial impetus for e-Sgoil, e-Sgoil's origin, we've looked to overcome numerous other barriers in our time over the last 6 or 7 years. I mentioned to you earlier that supply teaching was the bread and butter of what we did. You can see there on the map on the left. We've got over 200 teachers from all over Scotland, some in England, a few abroad as well, and they are poised to respond to requests from schools. The schools would pay e-Sgoil for a specialist teacher, and it's essentially a matching exercise where we beam teachers in order to sustain that specialist input, which would not happen because there's no local specialist supply available. You can see there again the range of subjects that we offer, that we offered last year, and you can we'll certainly try and help out any school with any staffing issue they may have. As I said, e-Sgoil has grown significantly in the short time that we've been around. We have representation there on the 2 maps where you can see on the left pins representing schools that interacted or received input from e-Sgoil last year in some shape or form. And you can see the map on the right representing the staff that we have. And teaching online is something that can add in terms of options available to staff, especially in remote rural communities. They might not be able to get much work in their local school, and they can, add to what, options they have by joining yourselves. Similarly, a lot of our staff, they maybe are maybe doing courses, college courses, further education courses. They may have caring responsibilities at home. They may have, maybe disabilities or conditions that would make it a bit difficult for them to cope in a full classroom for the duration of the school day. So teaching online from their own home is something that really appeals to some teachers, and we're pleased to support them with that. Now, COVID is really what fanned e-Sgoil into flame, really, and it turbocharged the digital journey, not just for schools and for teachers, but for learners as well. And so I spoke earlier about barriers, and that e-Sgoil is all about removing barriers. Well, COVID was the great leveler, the great barrier that cut across each and every single child in Scotland back in 2020. And we were tasked by Scottish Government to come up with a whole suite of programmes that would support young people and schools to try to mitigate the effects and the disruption that was being caused by COVID. And what we've seen since then is that suite of programmes has continued year on year with funding from Scottish Government under what's called the National E-Learning Offer. Now, everything that we deliver as part of the National E-Learning Offer is completely free. There is no cost whatsoever to any child or any school. Pretty much all of it is delivered through the Scottish Schools intranet, which Laura mentioned earlier on. That's an entitlement. Every young person in a Scottish school has a Glow account, and because of that, they can access anything that e-Sgoil has to offer. So I'm going to speak primarily tonight about our study support programme, because that is the main source of additional support that we provide for young people who are aged, who are in the senior phase. And essentially what that looks to replicate is the after-school kind of study classes that schools and teachers tend to often off their own back. It also seeks to kind of offer the equivalent of private tuition that, I don't know what the going rate is now, it's probably in excess of 30, maybe even £40 an hour. And that's all good and well if you've got tutors local to you, and also all good and well if you've got the means to pay for that for your young person. But we all know that that's not it's something that's possible for the majority of parents and carers throughout Scotland. And so with support from the Scottish Government, we've sought to provide a comprehensive programme of online webinars that cover a large number of subjects. And these webinars take place at in the evening, 5, 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And the reason that we've scheduled them then is, again, in the name of equity. Every child who travels to school by bus should be home by 5 p.m. If we were to schedule them at 4 p.m, then there'd be a significant number of young people who wouldn't be home by then. So you can see there, we've got over 60 different 45-minute webinars that young people can sign up to, ranging from National 4 right through to Advanced Higher. These begin in October, and that suite that you see in front of you there, that timetable runs right through until the exam period. Now, in addition to our evening webinars, we offer webinars at Easter as well. So we've got a week, a kind of a focus week during the Easter holidays, and that will be launching on Monday coming for young people to sign up to that. We've currently got 6,500 senior phase learners in S4, 5 and 6 from over 320 schools across Scotland. All 32 local authorities signed up for this. We ask schools and local authorities to promote this, and it's the young person themselves that sign up for it on an individual basis. A school cannot sign up young people. They have to do it themselves. Now, a school can facilitate the process, can tell them about it, can make time in class for them to do that. So these webinars run every week. They're completely free. There's no compulsion on anyone to attend every week. Once you sign up, you've got access to go along as and when you please. There's a timetable that's shared each week that gives you details of what's going to be covered. And we know that there's obviously schools teach courses in different orders and so on. So when you're delivering anything on a national basis, what our teachers would tend to do is to focus on, the kind of more common elements of courses, I suppose, and the elements and the topics that would be most likely to be covered first early on, before looking to cover as much of the course as possible. It's not us delivering the course, it's study support. It's there to complement and to add to what schools are already offering. I should also say there's no pressure on anyone, and the expectation certainly isn't that young people would have their cameras on, their microphones on. We don't want to make anyone uncomfortable and make them feel they have to appear on screen or speak on screen. Any interaction would take place using digital tools, the chat pane like we've got going tonight, and it's all, as I say, happening within Glow. There's questions back and forth, and we see even the young people helping each other as well, because everyone who's signed up for it wants to learn, wants to improve, wants to do as well as they can when it comes to exams. And we find that we see young people helping each other, and young people evaluated really positively. It's consistently evaluated really well. We hear young people say, I feel this made the difference between me getting a C and a B, or a B and an A. One of the other quotes that stands out is somebody saying, this is like having the tutor I could never afford. And that's what it's all about. It's about leveling the playing field and making this provision available to any young person in Scotland for free, no matter who they are, no matter where they are. As I said, every young person in Scotland has access to Glow and can sign up to this. We have shared a whole suite of resources with schools to help them promote this, to send it home via group call, to put posters up in classrooms which are subject specific. You can see there an example of an English timetable. You can see there an example of what's happening for what was taking place this coming week for a particular day, just as an example of what webinars are focusing on this week. So we've tried to promote it as much as we possibly can, and I'd be really keen to share information and to distribute that with parent councils, PTAs, through the Connect network. I think the more we can raise awareness of the provision, the more we can make sure that young people, no matter who they are, where they are, as long as they've got internet connectivity and a device, they should be able to access this. Now, I'll be honest and say I thought, in the early days, that when we had, thousands of young people signing up for this, I thought and I suspected that what we would be that those who were signing up were those who were the more well-off, the more affluent, that we wouldn't be representing the demographic of young people. But when we actually I'll come back to that. I thought I thought I had a slide on it, but I don't. But what I was going to say was we do analysis around SIMD, so Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation, and there is a really fair distribution of young people from all backgrounds signing up for it. So it's not just those in well-off areas who are signing up. And we can do analysis by region, by local authority, by school, and we can see exactly who's signing up for what. And you can see there on the slide in front of you the most popular subjects in terms of sign-ups. We've got English, maths, with sign-ups of over 2,000 young people. And it's really encouraging that we are at record numbers currently. Just conscious of time, that we want to leave some time for questions. We do a range of other things as well. Gaelic is obviously something that's close to our heart, being in the Western Isles. We offer any young person in Scotland the opportunity to take National 5, Higher or Advanced Higher Gaelic, no matter what school they're in. Now, the biggest barrier to that is the fact that school timetables are not considering one another. If you need, everyone, it's a case of every school doing what's best for themselves. But we are looking to timetable it in at times where it will cause the minimum disruption. We've done a bit of an audit recently, and we found that Tuesday and Thursday afternoons are a harmonised column across 15 local authorities in Scotland. So if we can deliver niche subjects in these at these times, it's not going to cut across existing subject choices, and it's going to mean that it'll be fairly seamlessly added to the list of course options that any child in Scotland in these areas could take on. And again, it's all about broadening choice, aspiring towards equity, improving learner pathways. And I think if a young person is able to take the subjects that they want, they're going to be more engaged, more motivated, more interested, and ultimately attain better. And just the yellow circle you see just very quickly there, although it's not necessarily relevant to our audience tonight, perhaps, but there's a huge issue in Scotland and wider than Scotland with non-attendance. I think there's 18,000 young people currently in Scotland who have an attendance rate of less than 50%. And we are, again, with a bit of funding from Scottish Government, piloting an online school for these young people. And we've been running that for the last the last 4 years. And we're finding that it's really making a massive success. We can engage with young people and allow them to join from their safe space, removing all the anxiety triggers. They don't need to have the camera on, don't need to have the mic on. They can engage with learning and, using digital tools, using the chat pane, and we can slowly build up their confidence and equip them ultimately with national qualifications. And we're currently supporting almost 200 young people from primary 2 up until S6, right across Scotland. And it's the most impactful thing that I've ever been involved in, because we are putting a young person who was on a pathway to leaving school with nothing. And for the last 2 years, everybody who's left us post 16 has gone on to a positive destination, and quite a number have gone back to school, which is a real success as well. I mentioned Gaelic earlier on as an additional subject that we're offering. We have gone out to all local authorities again this year with an offer of additional national qualifications that they could add to their course options. I'll pop a link to the chat later so that you've got access to this booklet. Some of these courses will have a cost associated per learner. Others will be free because we're working in partnership with local authorities. But I'm just sharing that just for information as to how e-Sgoil can add value to what your local school is able to offer by way of subjects. So please do raise awareness, and if we're able to distribute any kind of information through the Connect network, we'd be more than happy to do that. So I'm conscious of time. We've got 10 minutes left, and so I'll just maybe stop sharing there and open the floor to any questions, if that's okay, Tina.
Thank you so much, Stephen. There's questions for you, and also there's one for Laura as well. I'm a massive e-Sgoil and Scholar fan, which is partly why we've got this session running tonight, because I just think the word needs to get out there. You're building and building on what you already did so well, and creating amazing opportunities for young people, particularly if they're, struggling with learning some of their subjects in school, or they're stuck, or they're struggling with the kind of school environment or whatever. So I will get on to other people's questions, but I just wanted to say that somebody asked about access via EduBuzz. Does it need to be through Glow only? I believe, as you said, that everyone can access Glow, but not all local authorities do kind of promote it and deliver it through their schools.
Yeah, every young person in a Scottish school has a Glow account. And although some local authorities don't choose to use it as their online platform, they will still be able to provide, any school should be able to provide a young person with their Glow username and password. And we can support that process. We've got guidance on our website for anyone who's having any difficulty with the sign-up process. The reason we use Glow, the Scottish Schools intranet, is essentially for safeguarding reasons and equity reasons. It's a walled garden, no uninvited guest can access. And secondly, we know every young person in Scotland has an account, and we're not leaving anybody out by choosing to use that as our platform. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you. And I would say, probably from a Connect perspective, that if you're a parent of a young person that's having any problem at all, do go and speak to the school. They do exist, these login details, but do make sure that you follow it up. Then we have got a question about, if a young person misses a live study support session, can they access it later? Are they recorded and available?
They're not recorded. Again, Glow is it doesn't allow for Teams calls to be recorded currently, and I think young people probably wouldn't interact in the same way if they knew the call was being recorded. But what we do ask all of our teachers to do, and Laura is actually one of our study support teachers when she's not doing her scholar work. She delivers one of our English webinars for us. We do ask them to share the work, to upload the resources, and that way anybody who's unable to access the webinar live is able to access the PowerPoints and the resources and see the additional support is there for them to access. So unfortunately, for those who would want a recording, it's not a function that's currently available to us. But we are maybe looking into exploring how we can maybe use something like an AI summary kind of tool that could maybe give a richer digest of the teaching, but that's just more of an idea I have at the moment that hasn't quite made it to being trialed quite yet.
I'm just going chronologically through the questions. The next one was for Laura. Will there be Nat 4 provision on Scholar, Laura?
So the courses that are currently on Scholar are there for one of two reasons. One of the reasons would be that there are a great number of learners in Scotland who the content would be relevant to. And the other one is, in some cases, a course is on Scholar because the uptake across Scotland is maybe not great. There's maybe not thousands of learners completing that course. And so we've got that provision there because what we're finding is that for some schools or authorities, they're maybe having to run that course in what's known in schools as a travel column, which has now sometimes become, where years ago, learners would go to, maybe it would be presented to them by their local college or by another secondary school close to them, and they would have to travel to it. But that's now become a virtual campus. So at the moment, we don't have National 4 full courses, although lots of our National 5 content is still fairly relevant to the National 4 course. So we don't exclude any learners from accessing our courses and our content. And in fact, quite a few of our teachers get in touch with us so that we can add further learners to register them to the National 5 courses, because perhaps there are learners, for example, some that are doing National 4 geography and National 5 geography, and they're in the same class. And of course, we don't want some learners to have access to the resource and some learners to not have access to the resource. So it's just a case of administration of getting in touch with us, and we can add those young people manually instead of them being added automatically. However, currently there are no plans to add full national 4 courses, but that might change in the future, depending on lots of factors. But so currently no plans, but that doesn't. But watch this space. There may be in the future.
Thank you very much, Laura. Andy asks, how can a young person gain access to home learning online? I'm thinking that that's a question about can you access Glow from home, but it might also be a question about if a young person is being home educated, how would they access Glow or Scholar indeed when they're not attached to, potentially not attached to a school or a college?
I'll maybe try and answer that just from a Glow point of view. So you can any young person can access Glow. Any young person using a school, registered in a school, can access Glow on any device at all. It can be a home device, school device, phone, tablet, laptop. So there's no barrier in that way. But for somebody who's home educated, most local authorities would remove the Glow credentials the moment a young person is removed from the school role. So Glow is not an entitlement to, that those who are homeschooled currently have available to them. And that's a conversation to be had with Education Scotland around the rights and the wrongs of that. But that's the current picture as I understand it.
Yes, I think the ability to sit a qualification when you're not attached to a centre came up in the Haywood review as well for those young people that are home educated. Another question, what's the difference between Scholar and e-Sgoil? Is one better for some pupils than other? Is the offer different? Are they complementary? Can you do it all?
I think, we absolutely complement one another. Our aims are very much the same. We're looking to support young people to, maximize their potential and to support them through that journey towards the end of a course and hopefully a qualification at the end of it. So Scholar, their mode is, interactive, self-directed or as directed by your teacher. And I'm sure Laura will do a much better job of explaining that than I would. And what we're trying to do through our study support program is just, again, complement what schools are looking to do and, allow young people to choose to access, a bit of top up, something that's scheduled, something that's at a set time. And I think, having that routine is something that some young people really need and respond well to, rather than being left to their own devices and maybe having great plans and it doesn't quite happen. So yeah, we're not duplicating, we're not stepping on one another's toes. We are very much, part of a suite of options available to young people to
Yeah, completely agree, Stephen. And so lots of learners will use both. And it might be that they use Scholar for some subjects and e-Sgoil for others. It might be that they are somebody that is really keen and they really want to take advantage of all of these opportunities that are coming their way, and they use both Scholar and e-Sgoil for all of the subjects that they're studying. And that is what happens in classrooms as well. I don't think you would ever find a secondary school teacher who would use one resource and one resource only. Most teachers use lots of different resources from in lots of different places and some that they've created themselves. And so learners are used to having that variety. And so learners should and do have that variety in online learning as well.
That's super. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if Kadar is in Canada, seeing as they're asking about Ontario. But the question about is there a certification? What you both offer is not part of SQA qualifications. It supports those, doesn't it? There's no accreditation to be had from completing, apart from what you showed about tasks being completed, and there's not a kind of it doesn't count for any kind of certification or anything, does it? Or does it?
No, it's well, just speaking for e-Sgoil, sorry, Laura. It's part of a package supporting them towards accreditation by the SQA. We do not provide any kind of accreditation. We're there to support young people who are undertaking courses within their own school.
Yes, absolutely. Same for Scholar. We are not here to replace what teachers and schools are doing. We are here to enhance and support, so learners can get extra help from us when they need it, but they'll have to go through their centre to get the accreditation for their qualification.
Thank you so much. It's been a great session. There will be a poll coming up on your screens. If you could let us know, please, if this session was useful to you. Please do contact Connect if you have any further questions, info@connect.scot, and we'd be very pleased to see you at our next session, which is next week, which is open to all parents and carers on apprenticeships with Skills Development Scotland. You will receive these slides by email from Eventbrite, I think later this evening or tomorrow. If you can't find them, please do check your junk mail. That would be really, really helpful. And thank you to my colleague Sarah for holding the fort when I was having a major internet incident. And thank you so much, Laura and Stephen, for your contributions this evening. It's 9 o'clock, so thanks everybody for joining us this evening.